Ever since the fire, Fizzaroli sat in the hospital not believing that it had come to this. No limbs, no horns, no performing ever again. He was so alone and scared. What would become of him now? He wished that his friend Blitzer was there to help him get through it, but after he heard that Blitzer was actually the one that caused the fire out of jealousy, Fizz wanted nothing to do with him. After a week went by, the little imp's depression started to grow, until Bucko, the runner of the circus, came by to give Fizz some good news.
Hey, kiddo, how you feeling?
Well,
That's great. Anyways, look, I know you've been feeling down since the fire, but I've got something that will cheer you up. You know Mammon?
Yes?
Well, he heard about your injuries on the news, and he wants you to work with him.
Fizzaroli couldn't believe it. Mammon was one of the most famous rulers in all of hell, and he wanted to work with Fizz. It was a dream come true. But when Bucko signed the contract, he didn't read it, or even say goodbye to Fizz when he left. Bucko was like a father to him, but he just threw Fizz away, like he was garbage. After that, Fizz thought that his life couldn't get any worse. As a few months went by, Asmodeus, the King of Lust, came by to see the King of Greed at his job about a business idea that he had.
Ah, if it isn't my favorite lovebird. How you doing, your majesty?
Fine, just fine. I want to talk to you about this nightclub that I want to open.
I see. Here, walk with me and tell me all about it.
As they talked about ideas and how things would work, Ozzie was so focused on explaining his vision for the nightclub that he didn't even realise where he was going until something caught his eye. He saw a closed curtain with nothing by it, except for a sign that just said, "The Living Stump," which made him curious.
Say, Mammon, what is this about?
Oh, it's a sideshow that I'm working on. I ran the human world that freak shows make a ton of money, so I thought, why not have one here in hell? Here, I'll show you.
As the King of Greed ran off to get a microphone, the lights came on, and music started blasting loudly. When Mammon came back, he was ready to host the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, tonight see the wonders of the underworld. I present you the Living Stump!
Then the curtains opened, and instead of getting the shocked or horrified reaction that Mammon wanted from Oz, he saw that Oz was stunned, with tears of blood running down his eyes. The King of Lust's heart broke when he saw what was behind the curtain. It was a depressed little imp, with no limbs, no horns, and no clothes as well. He was just sitting in a wheelchair, wearing only a diaper, looking so sad and embarrassed. He had wounds that looked infected and painful. He looked like he just wanted to die.
Hey, Rooster Boy, what the hell are you crying for? Look how f***ed up this guy looks. Isn't he something?
But Asmodeus just stood there. He was lost for words. The only thing that he could say while walking toward him was this.
Mammon, can I see you in my office for a second?
When they got to the office, the Green King didn't think that their discussion would turn to this.
I want to buy that imp.
What? Are you insane? He's my only act for my freak show. Do you know how hard it is to make a show like this?
Mammon, what you've got is a living imp that doesn't want to be here. I want to help him. You shouldn't hold him hostage just for being different.
Mammon was growing mad, and he was ready to rip this guy a new one. But then he thought of an idea for a deal.
Okay, Lovebird, I'll tell you what. I'll give you the imp, but only for a month. If you can find a way for him to be normal again, he's all yours. But if you can't, I will own him no matter what you do or say.
Asmodeus was a little scared. Trying to help someone through their mental and physical scars took years, not a month. But still, something was telling him to help Fizz, so he agreed. When he went over the imp, he flinched when Oz was about to touch him. Ozzie's heart broke again. Whatever happened to this poor guy must have been something. So he took off his jacket, wrapped it around the imp, picked him up, and carried him home. As he drove home in his limo, Oz was still holding Fizz. And, since it was a long drive, he thought that it would be a good time for them to get to know each other.
What's your name?
Fizzaroli, but everyone calls me Fizz.
What happened to you?
I grew up in the circus, but a fire happened and left me like this. No one saved me until it was too late.
Well, don't you worry, Fizz. I will save you.
When they pulled up to the house and got inside, the sad little imp was happy to be in a place that was warm. But he wasn't sure what he was doing there. Knowing Mammon, he probably sold him to the King of Lust for some kind of sick kink he had. When they got to the bedroom and Ozzie laid him on the bed, Fizzaroli started to panic. When the king noticed this, he did what he could to calm Fizz down.
Hey. Shh. What's wrong, babe?
Please don't hurt me. My body's in so much pain. I've been through so much. I don't know how much more I can take, please.
Ozzie was once again shocked. He didn't know where Fizz would get an idea like that. Maybe from the tabloids. They were always making up stories about how messed up Oz was, even though they knew that it wasn't true.
Fizz, I promise you, I'm not gonna abuse you in any way. I'm more lustful in my heart than in my bed.
Fizz still couldn't help but shake in fear. When the staff came in, they were holding bags of clothes and other things for the little imp. As Ozzie helped Fizz put burn cream on his wounds and helped him get dressed, Fizz almost cried. Ever since the fire, he had started to lose faith in people, knowing that they either wanted nothing to do with him or to just use him. As the weeks went by, the king was doing whatever he could to help his friend by studying robot parts and prosthetics. So far, he'd only hit dead ends. But he was running out of time, and he couldn't let Fizz down. Meanwhile, the little imp was really starting to enjoy his new life. No more hunger pains, no more abuse, no more working on acts. But still, he just wished that he still had his arms and legs. He hated that he felt more like a baby than an adult. Anytime he needed something, someone had to help him, even if it was embarrassing. It just wasn't fair. Until one day, Oz believed that he had finally built the right prosthetics for Fizzaroli. As he helped Fizz put them on, he showed him that one chip on his forehead could read what he wanted the limbs to do. There were of course mishaps with them, and Fizz had to learn how to walk again, but he finally got the hang of it, which made him so happy to have his life back that he gave the king a big hug.
Oh, thank you, Asmodeus. This is the greatest thing that anyone's ever done for me.
I'm just happy to help.
Man, with these new limbs, I could probably perform again. God, I miss being back on stage.
The king couldn't believe it. After what that monster did to him, he wanted to go back?
Oh, so I guess you'll be going back to Mammon.
Well, yeah, I mean, I still have a contract with him, and I can't go back to rock bottom.
I understand.
Then Ozzie left the room. Fizz didn't understand what the problem was. When he packed up, he wanted to say goodbye to his friend. But sadly, Oz was locked away in his room, and he didn't want to talk to anyone. When Fizz got to Greed City and talked to the boss, Mammon was amazed at what the imp could now do, and he was already coming up with ideas for his next show. When opening night came, everyone was amazed. They couldn't stop cheering, which made the King of Greed so happy about how much money he was making. After the show was over, Fizzaroli was exhausted and ready to go to bed.
Say, boss, you said you had a place for me until I had an apartment, right?
Yes, I sure do. Boys!
Before he knew it, Fizz was grabbed by some big hellhounds and carried into a locked closet. Before he got a chance to fight back, they ripped his hat off and broke the chip that controlled his limbs. His arms and legs went dead, but they took them off just in case.
Mammon, what are you doing? Give me back my limbs!
Oh, don't worry. You'll get these back, but only for the next show. Same as the next day, and the next, and the next, until you die.
The little imp couldn't believe what he was hearing. When they shut the door, he couldn't believe that this was happening again. Back at Ozzie's, he was in his office, still upset about how Fizz just left him like that to go back to that greed creep. But then, suddenly, he got an alert on his phone, telling him that Fizz's chip was no longer in use, which made him worried, and he went to go see what the problem was. When he got to the theatre house, it was closed, and looked as if no one was inside. But Oz still had to get in. When he shapeshifted into a mouse, he found a hole that led into the building. He looked around to see if he could find Fizz or even his hat. Just anything. But then, as he walked past a closet, he heard what sounded like crying.
Hello?
Oz.
Fizz, what happened?
Oh, Oz. It's horrible. Mammon took my limbs, my hat, and locked me in here. I'm once again a useless stump.
Baby, don't talk like that. I'll get you out of here and I'll get your limbs back. I promise.
The lustful king used all his strength to rip the door off its hinges, grab his friend, and get out of there. When they got to Marmon's house, Ozzie was ready to do anything to get the parts back. When the rich imp came downstairs, he was surprised to see His Majesty there so early. But when he saw Fizz in his arms, Mammon knew that this wasn't good. But he still tried to play it off.
Well, well, well. If it isn't the lovebird and his pet.
Cut the bullshit, Mammon. Where are Fizzaroli's limbs?
That's what you're here for? Man, with the machines at your dildo factory, you could have just made another pair.
That's not the point. I worked hard getting those limbs just right for him. Now where are they?
That depends. What's in it for me?
Ozzie then pulled out his phone and showed Mammon footage of when the King of Greed went to his club and had some alone time with some of the girls, and did all kinds of sick stuff. Mammon knew that if the footage got out, he would be ruined.
Alright, fine. Here are the stupid limbs.
And I want you to end Fizzaroli's contract for him being in your show.
What?
Okay, fine. Now can you please leave?
But just as they were about to go, the little imp had something to say.
Wait, Oz, I don't want to stop performing for him.
What? But he's treated you horribly.
I know, but ever since I was a little kid, it's been my dream to be in one of his shows. Bucko didn't read the contract when he signed me over. Maybe this time we can make a better one.
Asmodeus was at a loss for words. After all that, Fizz still wanted to work with Mammon. But seeing how Fizz had already lost so much, the last thing Oz wanted to do was kill his dream. So he agreed, and told them that he'd call his lawyer first thing in the morning. As they drove home, Fizz leaned over and rested his head on Ozzie's arm, so happy that he had someone like Ozzie in his life.